Hello everyone, welcome to the third video of Understanding E-Invoice from Practical Perspective. Link to video 1 and video 2 are available in the description. I strongly suggest that you watch them in sequence to best appreciate this discussion. In this video, we will be focusing on E-Invoice as a proof of business expense. As you will see later, this is much trickier than it seems. As shared in video 1, with E-Invoice implementation, E-Invoice not only serves as a proof of income, it will also be used as a proof of business expense. In an ideal scenario, the sum of all the E-Invoices issued minus of all your E-Invoices received will justify your business profit. Unfortunately, life are not so simple, yeah? Which is why we need to discuss this from a practical perspective. Before we proceed further, we need to know there are few entities exempted from implementing E-Invoice. Focusing only on implementation date of after 1st July 2025, 4 main industries are exempt from implementing E-Invoice. There are the Foreign Diplomatic Office, individuals who is not conducting business, businesses with turnover of less than 150,000 ringgit, or we refer them to micro SME, statutory body, which includes statutory authority and local authority in relation to collection of payment, fees, charges, statutory levy, summons, compound, and penalty carrying out under functions assigned to it under the law. As we all aware, most businesses will very likely have suppliers from at least 2 out of 4 categories above. For micro SME, please note that they can continue to issue normal invoices. Although exempt from implementation, they will still need to collect E-Invoice as a proof of expense. Now, let's revisit the simple scenario that we seen in video 1. In this scenario, A sells to B and B sells to C and the general public. A issue E-Invoice to B and B then issue E-Invoice to C. As the general public do not need to justify their expenses, they did not receive E-Invoice. In this scenario, things are simple. This is because all the expenses consist only of purchases from E-Invoice implemented suppliers. B will use E-Invoice from A as a proof of expense, while C will use E-Invoice from B. This is definitely ideal, but also definitely far from practical. In real life, there are way much wider range of expenses than just purchases of goods from one vendor. We will go through them in the next slide. Now, focusing on B enterprise, let's think of more expenses that resemble a real-life scenario. To maximize cost effectiveness, B will likely also have purchases from micro SME and foreign suppliers. B also pay commissions and incentive to his agents and distributor. These payments are computed by B at month end based on the sales income attributed to them. B also hire full-time admin and store employees, and also part-time labor on needed basis. His employees are entitled to claim some mileage expense and meal allowances during promotional activities. There are also some other expenses incurred, including rental expense from his landlord who is not in business. Not forgetting his vendor often make payment on behalf of B, and B also paid on behalf of some of the contractors. Do remember, micro SME, foreign suppliers, and individuals are exempt entities. Also, employees are not supposed to issue invoices, and their claims may or may not have E-Invoice. Oh, this is getting complicated. How can we support all these expenses? Don't worry, stay with me and let's go to the next slide. Let's look at how to handle the scenarios as given in the guidelines. Whenever you make a purchase from E-Invoice implemented suppliers, you should always request for E-Invoice. The responsibility lies with the supplier to comply with the requirements. As for expenses from micro SME, you can continue to use the current normal commercial invoice or bill. Now, there are a new type of document introduced called self-billed e-invoice. We need to issue self-billed e-invoice for transactions allowed in the guideline. This includes payments to agents, dealers or distributor, i.e. your commissions and incentive, payment to foreign vendors, payment for e-commerce transactions, and this applies to e-commerce platforms, payment for profit distributions, payment for battings and winnings, payments to individuals not in business, which is one of the exempt entities, payments for certain type of interest payment, payments for insurance claims and compensations, and also payment for capital reductions, share buyback and equivalents. We will touch a bit more on self-billed e-invoice later. For all type of employee remuneration, whether fixed or ad hoc, it needs to be reported in payroll and employee EA form. Your proof of expenses will be equivalent to their proof of income. For various type of employees claims and benefits, this can continue to be paid to employees by employees reimbursement claim or claim form. This entitlement and the limit need to be carefully laid out in the employee's handbook or employer's policy. Also, taxable benefits need to be reported in employee's EA form. Do check with your tax agents to ensure compliance. Okay, these reimbursement claims are largely supported by bills and invoices. If employees can request for e-invoice in the name of company, they should always do so. If it is not possible, they can continue to support with e-invoice or invoice in the name of employee. To clarify a little bit more on self-billed e-invoice, it is an e-invoice business issued to themselves instead of getting from supplier. Business cannot issue self-billed e-invoice other than the scenarios allowed by the E-invoice guideline, which I had briefly gone through in the previous slide. Also, you may refer to Section 8 of E-invoice guideline to learn more. For self-billed e-invoice, you will need to request for the same information from your supplier as those information that you request from your customers when you issue them e-invoice. Do share the self-billed e-invoice with your supplier upon issuance. Consolidated self-billed e-invoice is allowed during the interim relaxation period. How about expense reimbursement and disbursement? Expense reimbursement are the expenses that your supplier incur and paid while carrying on a service to you, while expense disbursement are expenses that originally billed to you but your supplier paid on behalf of you earlier. Yes, reimbursement and disbursement can continue in practice with two general rules in place. First, only the entity with their name on the e-invoice to record the e-invoice in their book. Second, ensure that there is no double claim of expenses or double reporting of income on overall basis. This is a lengthy topic that needs a detailed discussion of the processes and perhaps also the double entries. Do you want me to do another video on this? Do me a favor, comment below with the tick emoji if you want a video on this topic. You can also suggest for other topics that you wish for me to cover. Sounds confusing, isn't it? Now, let's relook again in practical perspective. For your suppliers, first, identify whether they are e-invoice implemented suppliers. If yes, please request for e-invoice. If they are micro SME, please request for normal commercial invoice. If they are foreign suppliers or individuals without a business registered, request for the necessary information from them to issue a self-billed e-invoice. Next is your employees. Ensure all the salaries and wages paid to them is recorded in payroll and reported in their EA form. As for others form of claims and benefits, it is time to implement employee handbook and employee claim form if you haven't done so. For claims with invoices, employees should always try to request for E-invoice in the name of business unless it is not possible. There should be a clear justification or reason of the claims in the form and in employee handbook. Not forgetting the payments to third parties for commissions and incentive, which is rather common. First, confirm the payment computation are directly related to sales recorded in your business. For example, you will issue a commission by paying certain percentage of listed invoices. These are considered payment to agents. Hence, you may issue a self-billed e-invoice. Okay, now that we know how we can prove all our business expenses in e-invoice era, let's look again at the practical challenges and our suggested solutions. First, how to identify the vendor status, whether they are micro SME, SM, or individuals not in business. Always request for e-invoice before you proceed with payment. If the vendor revert that they cannot issue an e-invoice to you, request them to fill in a simple one-time confirmation whether they are micro SME or foreign entities or individuals not in business. You can do it in the form of manual or Google form. From there, you will know whether to accept a commercial invoice or to issue a self-billed e-invoice. Second, your business may require regular small purchases from multiple retail outlets. It is time for you to start planning for weekly or even fortnightly purchases with a list of preferred vendors. This is to reduce the administrative burden of needing to convert the many small receipts into e-invoices for the many small purchases. Third, currently your employees may withdraw many small claims from petty cash. This will have to change. Your employees will need to submit a monthly or fortnightly claim, whichever practical. It is also time to implement an employee handbook policy. Fourth, some of your agents may issue invoices for commissions. It is time for you to send communications to all your agents on the effective date of self-billed e-invoice. Also, start requests for essential data in order for you to proceed with billing. Fifth, some of the ad hoc workers may not be willing to provide personal information for the purpose of self-billed e-invoice. You may need to confirm and collect the data before confirm hiring. 6. Payments on behalf is a common practice in your business industries. Yes, this still can continue, but you may need to review your current processes and see if any changes is required. Of course, these are only some of the examples of the practical challenges. Share your challenges in the comments if you have more. Well, we have now gone through most of the important requirements and the details. How do you feel? Do you feel you know what to do, but don't know how and where to begin? Perhaps it is difficult to squeeze the extra time out to focus on back office matters when operational issues already taken all your time. Perhaps you need a little extra support. In SW Lim & Co., we offer ad hoc remote support services cater exactly to your need. From giving operational guidance, review of procedures, to software demonstrations, we aim to help small businesses operate efficiently while complying with all the relevant requirements. If you think our support will be beneficial to you, you and your team can now book remote appointments with us at https://swlimco.setmore.com. Terms and conditions are listed at the site. Visit to find out more. Thank you for being with me today. Bye.